Should I be having children? Well, impartially, sure. It's the natural thing to do as a human being, the most common thing. But today, empirically and ethically, and in all good conscience, as a responsible man of sound mind, well, if you typically look both ways before crossing a road, I'd say you're a sensible and responsible individual. Similarly, it's not that the majority of men wouldn't want to follow their natures and cross that road toward reproduction and matrimony, but it is not a harmless road to be crossed. It resembles a freeway, and on top of that, a man is being asked to cross blindfolded. Okay, I myself don't have a dog in this game. I never found the game attractive. Though I do admit, if I'm honest, I may have just had a family in my naive youth because that was always the done thing. But a combination of luck and a high trait of self-preservation in my nature helped mitigate that. In some ways, I envy a bygone age where the man could do the blind, naive and proper thing by society and nature without today's matrimonial procreational risks, and then get on with the other things that interested him in life after nature had been paid its due, so to speak. But that is not the case today. Today it's become a Groundhog Day of perpetually paying for something we'll never receive. It's the dedicated writer who is never published, the athlete without a medal, broken relationship after broken relationship in an endless treadmill that constitutes a wasted mechanical life. I ask you, objective listener, when would you get tired of trying again? After the third, fourth, fifth, 10th serious try? An even more salient question is, when does the courting of the symbolic one finally grow tiresome? As a 30-year-old man, a 40-year-old man, a 50, 60, 70-year-old man, when do wrinkled faces sitting across from each other on a date become clownish as they attempt to protract their youth? When indeed. As a side note, I've often thought of the modern perpetual sex dating game that narcotically never ends, and how it robs us of so much of our maturity, particularly the intellectual, creative and metaphysical sides. But in any case, eventually, as a man gets grey hair, his attention moves from women to the world. Better late than never for most of us in today's times, I guess. And coincidentally, this is also when women's attention does the exact opposite. This is when women are typically ready to settle down and have a real relationship in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. This to me is just too convenient to be explained away as women biologically reaching their sexual prime later in life. No, the more rational explanation, empirically to me anyway, would be that as a man leaves the poker table of lust and stops paying that draining and losing game, it suddenly dawns on her that she has no authority without him staying in the game. So she throws her vagina into the pot and goes all in to keep him playing. But eventually, even old dogs stop chasing toys and cars. Historically, procreation was always a trade-off, particularly for men of will. But the law has made it suicide in the generation we live. They're not even hiding the gun behind their back anymore. The psychopathic attitude almost seems to be,
watch us kick the dog and watch it come back wagging its tail. Just watch and look at this stupid creature. LOL.
I mean, it's not rocket science. As the landscape looks more dangerous, the intelligent stop having kids because it's empirically unsafe to do so, while the rest are trying to be unicorns. But women love their unicorns and men love women, so 1 + 1 = 2 and all that. In the old comic strip Peanuts, Charlie Brown landing flat on his ass after Lucy pulls the ball away after she promises she won't is a lesson for men on trust with women. Or more precisely, how many times must the ball be pulled away before a man accepts reality? Apparently, gynocentrism thinks Charlie Brown falling for this con is a hilarious joke, and they cannot understand why the joke wouldn't continue. I mean, women love that joke, and you wouldn't want to take that joke away and make them frown, would you? And look, the conscious man, eyes open, cannot simply throw his life over a cliff for love. The man thinks, at least give me a dangerous decline, please. Give me a reasonable chance. But no, it's a vertical cliff or nothing today. So what would you choose, gentlemen? An exciting, sexy cliff or nothing? That's what I thought. If you find life meaningful and worthwhile, then you must start with valuing your own first. Somehow, I don't think you find meaning by throwing yourself away or valuing yourself less. Let's frame it another way. Consider a dog that loves its owner, no matter how badly it's mistreated. We love dogs especially for this absolute quality of love and forgiveness towards its owner, no matter how cruel the master is. But would you continue being that dog who loves its cruel owner if you were the dog? Walt Whitman once said he admired animals for they don't lie awake at night feeling guilt or shame. But this is the difference we forget between us animal species. You see, we do as humans lie awake, tormented by our conscience. We cannot live this contradiction as dogs might. We lie awake at night if things are not right. So in light of this, I was pondering some of my more recent videos where I've been talking about the importance of internally reflecting on personal ethics and responsibility. You typically get the biological traditional defense from detractors in my comment sections, which some of them have merit to them. I do agree for the most part in terms of the species, as a distal objective rationale for mankind. But a recent conversation I had with an old friend in our community got me thinking. He asked me, "Human, have you honestly asked yourself whether you should be reproducing? Not whether it's safe or rational or anything, but whether you should." And I knew what he meant, and I thought about it, and I have to say objectively, I ought to, I should, or I should have. Not that I will or regret not doing so, but physically and mentally I have much to pass on, genetically speaking, as well as the obvious mentorship I'd impart on my potential progeny. That is, I'd be a good father, not because of any romantic notion, but because I'd objectively offer something good and positive. But, and it's a big but, the elephant in the room cannot be ignored. Even if one would like to or thinks they ought to, the sensible man that would want to create and mentor an objectively better child for tomorrow's world is precisely the same mind that cannot sacrifice the father necessary to do so. I'll repeat that. The sensible man that would want to create and mentor an objectively better child for tomorrow's world is precisely the same man that cannot sacrifice the father necessary to do so, i.e. himself. Do you see? Nature just wants the child as an object created, while the father needs much more. This is the double bind. This is the obstacle. He would if he was not offered so little in return, but a self-respecting man cannot give his own life away so cheaply. STARDUSK did a recent video reminding young men of the notion of not being a charity. That is, don't forget to be compensated with something you value for your effort if you do choose to be that human doing. But how does a sensible man procreate today and retain his efforts of said procreation? In short, a sensible man can't. He must either approach it like a charity, as STARDUSK astutely warned against, while simultaneously and falsely hoping that he is more than that. And since he no longer has any tangible control over his role as a father after he's crossed that Rubicon, he must believe in this fantasy. Look, I'm not exhibiting sour grapes here, not at all. Only acknowledging that there is virtually no benefit for the massive sacrifice of attempting to heroically procreate today against all odds. As F. Scott Fitzgerald once said, "Show me a hero and I'll write you a tragedy." As I've mentioned as much in my previous Don't Be a Hero video, linked below, I think STARDUSK and I are on the same page regarding this. There is not even respect for the father's role, let alone any authority in that role. which is a prerequisite for any self-respecting man to do his fathering well. And again, the rational, intelligent man wants to do his job well. He has pride in it. So he cannot leave it up to love and hope and chance like the female brain does. No, the future child is too important for the responsible man. Largely, to a cautious and responsible man, you have children to a high standard or you do not. You have a wife to a high standard or you do not. Or as Yoda said, do or do not, there is no try. There is a leaning towards honor in these important life things for men. Not a drunken attitude, not spinning the wheel of chance. No, not with an important life decision from which there is no return. Not from the existential haunting that'll remain with a man if he gets it so obviously wrong. The sensible man cannot accept two contradictory foundations when building his life. A man, generally speaking, doesn't choose a stripper for a wife. We may choose them for other things, but not for wives or mothers of our children. But a woman will boast about choosing a thug as a father for her future child. This is how seriously she takes her future children's lives. So no, men don't do this. Men cannot do this. Despite what they say, men don't avoid marriage and children because of fear, but rather because they're sane and care existentially too much for the unborn child. Intelligence to me is the ability to play chess with life as accurately as possible. Look, life's short. Either you think or others will think for you and use your life up. So, procreation, gentlemen, it's an important and responsible question to consider as a man, especially in light of the existential pain one might feel later in life if left unaddressed. As for myself, even as a kind gesture to nature, sorry, would that I could, but my sanity cannot allow it. The same sanity that would be a good father will not allow it. Perhaps the men that follow my time will have steep inclines instead of the current cliffs of procreation that exist. One can only hope. For the survival of the species in any case. Anyway, this personal question of whether you should or shouldn't have children is an important thing to consider. Be honest with yourself and have your eyes open. Later, gentlemen. If you like my videos and want to say thanks, feel free to donate via the links below. Thanks especially to the recent donations of people. I really appreciate it. Finally, share, link, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be notified of my next video. Thank you.